Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Touchline Talk with all changing, where we will be discussing all the latest news and gossip around the Premier League, the EFL and the rest of the world. As usual, I'm joined by football broadcaster, writer and general man in the know, Dean Jones, to dissect all the latest news and whispers on the grapevine. Morning, Dean.
Morning, Pete. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, pal. Obviously, the FA Cup has just finished. A few upsets there, but unfortunately, Marine couldn't pull off the big upset and knock out Spurs. But it was good to see fans watching from their houses at the back. It just showed exactly what everything the FA Cup is.
Yeah, at least there was that tinge of romance about it. Just seeing people drinking like prosecco and they're hanging over their back fence. So that was quite fun. But I don't think any of us expected Marine to actually win that one, did we? It was the biggest gap in quality you're ever likely to see. But yeah, they did all right. They did themselves proud. I think you can say that much.
Yeah, they held out for 20 odd minutes or so before Spurs opened the floodgates and comfortably won the game. One of those teams that did suffer an FA Cup upset was West Brom, who lost to League One Blackpool on penalties, just to add to Sam Allardyce's misery, really. And Allardyce admitted after the game that they're probably going to have to be the busiest club in this transfer window to try and improve the squad. Obviously, they have brought in one new signing in Robert Snodgrass from West Ham, but I think he's looking to bring in a new striker if he can, Big Sam, maybe a left back and possibly a centre back as well. Obviously, his hands are a bit tied with finances right now with COVID and everything else, and West Brom not really willing to spend too much money. Do you think Big Sam really needs to go into the transfer market to have any chance of staying up?
Yeah, I mean, he needs the team to kind of mirror what he's all about, and at the moment they don't. He's not satisfied with the type of player that they've got in there in order to have a chance of staying up. So they're definitely going into the market. I was told they'll probably sign 4 players. It's probably not going to be any more than that. 4 is quite a lot to sign in a month anyway. So that, when you consider the logistics of it all as well at the moment. And Snodgrass kind of sets the tone really for the type of player that you can expect. He wants experienced players. He wants people with something to prove, and to bring a mentality, I think, to the squad that isn't there at the moment. I think Slaven Bilic knew himself. Slaven Bilic needed this window as well if he was still in charge. So, yeah, West Brom need a mini overhaul. He'll be linked with Phil Jones. He's being linked with Hamza Chowdhury at Leicester. Obviously, he'll want a forward because they can't score goals. It's just about trying to change the identity of this team as much as you can in a month to give them a fighting chance. It's going to be really, really difficult, obviously, but the thing for Allardyce that's going to be motivating him is he gets a £2 million bonus if they do manage it. So there's certainly that at the end of it for him.
Yeah, that motivation doesn't seem to be working so far after those heavy defeats to Leeds, and then obviously that FA Cup exit as well to Blackpool. But yeah, one player that he has confirmed his interest in, if it's financially viable for West Brom, is Josh King of Bournemouth, who obviously was strongly linked with the move to Manchester United this time last year. Again, was linked with several clubs in the summer transfer window, but still remains at Bournemouth. Do you see any chance of West Brom landing Josh King?
Not really, no. I think Josh King, the kind of clubs he's been linked with and the places he's been expecting to end up, the last thing I think he'll be wanting is to join West Brom right now. I've spoken to people who say, he's not like desperate to get out of Bournemouth, I don't think. There's a chance they go up as well. So, if he moves this month, I think it will be for a club further up the league, and so that he's not like stuck to the bottom of the division for the next 5 months again.
Yeah, Josh King's in a strong position with his contract expiring at Bournemouth at the end of the season. We all know that he's been strongly linked with West Ham as well, but from what I'm hearing, West Ham have moved on and he's no longer on their list of targets as well. You mentioned Hamza Chowdhury, their Dean, before, that West Brom have been very keen on him. That's one deal you could see happening?
I think possibly, yeah. It depends on Brendan Rodgers. I mean, he's saying that he doesn't ideally want to lose him, but you can understand that the player needs game time. And, he's a really good player, and it would be something for him to relish, I think, the chance to prove himself in a situation like that and then go back into Leicester, especially his position. He would be in the heart of the midfield and the real heartbeat of the side. So I think it would be an interesting move for him. I mean, whatever happens, West Brom are only looking at short-term signings right now, so they'll be players whose contracts are expiring. There'll be loan deals until the end of the season. They're not going to be signing players on like 3-year deals because all they can worry about is the next 6 months. They don't know what the future holds, and that's how this club, has always worked. It's only looking in short windows, and so this one just happens to be only 6 months.
Yeah, another few names that have been linked with West Brom that I've heard of. Danny Rose, possibly from Tottenham. He's obviously out of favour under Jose Mourinho, and obviously his contract's coming to an end as well. So maybe if he got paid up, he could possibly be a free transfer for West Brom. Also, James Tompkins at Crystal Palace. He's been in and out of the team under Roy Hodgson in the last year or so. Big Sam knows him. He managed him at Crystal Palace and West Ham, I believe. So there's a long-standing association there. And then one name that sprung out from the weekend for me was Clement Grenier, the French midfielder, who's playing for Rennes right now. Supposedly he could be available in this window, and West Brom have already made an offer for him. So he'll be someone who maybe would add a touch of class to that West Brom midfield as well. But out of those names, Dane, do you think those three would be decent signings?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all players that... I think Allardyce is mainly going to be looking for players that he has either directly worked with and knows exactly what he's going to get from those players, or he indirectly knows through other managers, and where he's been able to get a thorough understanding of what they would bring to his squad and what their mentality and their physical condition is right now. And I think that it surprised me a little bit that he's going into Liga to look at players, because I don't typically see that that's a good time to be testing the waters with a signing like that. But if you're good enough, then fair enough. But yeah, I just think that Allardyce will just want players that he completely believes in and that he knows inside out.
Yeah, it's going to be a big month for West Brom in this transfer window to get the right players in to try and transform their fortunes and give them any hope of staying up in the Premier League this season. Another team who we expect to be busy in this window, they've got 20-odd million in their pocket now from the sale of Sebastian Haller to Ajax. West Ham, we all know, do like to do a few deals in the transfer window most of the time. Obviously, a striker is now the priority for David Moyes' side. Probably this departure of Haller wasn't really a surprise. Maybe the timing of it was. He just didn't really find the form at West Ham, and David Moyes now wants something better. But the club did take a big hit on Haller. Were you surprised, Dean, by his departure?
I was actually a little bit. I know it hasn't been going great for him, but there had been no real signs of him leaving, especially, and it really was sudden. From what I was told, he said at the start of the week to the board that he only really wanted to go back to Germany. He wanted to play there. He'd obviously been with Frankfurt before, and if any Bundesliga clubs came in and he was interested, and then the next day Ajax table a bid and he goes in and that's the one for me. I'm happy with that. And it just quickly escalated from there, and off he went. I think West Ham realised that it would be a gamble to keep him. I think that the way things had gone, they fear that he could lose even more value over the next year. And so they just decided to take the hit. It's a massive hit to take. I don't think they've probably paid out the entire fee, though, the initial fee that was talked about. So they haven't paid all that money. So it's probably not quite as bad as we think. The question now is, what kind of striker does David Moyes actually want, and who's available? What can they actually do here? Obviously, West Ham are always linked with multiple forwards in every window, whether they're actually looking for one or not. The fact is now they've pretty much only got Michail Antonio, who's not really a typical centre forward because he's only been playing there for a short period of time. He's done well, but you need somebody you can rely on, and that's why I was told that they are sounding out Olivier Giroud just over his situation. Obviously, from the outside, you'd think surely Chelsea are going to play this guy and he's going to get games and be important. But I honestly don't think he is. I don't think that he is a big part of what's left in this season. And I think that the option to stay in London might be interesting to him on a short-term deal. But away from that, there's so many things that they're looking at. You've already mentioned Josh King. There's Adam Flozek, who's at Sparta Prague, but he's quite young, and I'm not sure they'll go. He's going to cost about 20 million himself. I'm not sure they'll go down that route. Boulaye Dia at Reims, he's been scoring a lot of goals, more than one every other game this season in Liga. He's somebody that they've had on their radar for a while, so that's one to watch out for. And then also, what I'm being told in the last 24 hours is that, the loan market is really, really opening up because there are players out there that are desperate for moves. and just need to get going this season. And I think that Luka Jovic is somebody that could come onto their radar here. I think that at Real Madrid, he's not getting a kick. I think he's actually played more international football than club football in recent times, which is crazy. Obviously, used to play with Haller, so it's a strange one. They were up front together at Frankfurt, but Jovic is a different kind of forward. He's a really, really good player, but AC Milan looking at him as well. So if Real Madrid give signs that Luka Jovic is available on a short-term deal or loan, then that could be one that opens up, I reckon.
It could be an interesting shout, that Luka Jovic. As you said, he's been linked with the Premier League for probably the last year or so with a lot of clubs, but has remained at Real Madrid. But I think he came out recently and said doesn't seem he's got the faith of Zinedine Zidane, so he probably will have to move on for the good of his career as well. Another name that's been linked with West Ham is Marko Arnautović, who obviously left the club under a bit of a cloud. Do you see any chance of him coming back?
I'll be very surprised. I mean, I understand.
This is West Ham, though, Dean. This is West Ham.
This is the thing I was going to say. I do understand. Look, you can't rule anything out because it's West Ham, but it would surprise me if Arnautović came back, given the way that his final days at the club ended. But who knows?
Exactly. Also, Ismaila Sarr of Watford has been mentioned in some reports as being a potential target. Obviously, he had a lot of big clubs reportedly chasing him in the summer, the likes of Manchester United, Liverpool. So it'd be a bit of a drop down for Sarr if he was to end up at West Ham. But I think Watford will be keen to keep hold of him, and his price tag probably be too much for West Ham in this window.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I've read the stories, but I don't believe that that's one they're actively pursuing right now. I think that if they were to do something like that, maybe the summer, but I don't think that doesn't seem to me to be on the agenda right now.
Yeah. I know they were definitely interested in Moussa Dembele from Lyon on a possible loan deal, but it seems Dembele, the former Fulham striker, is on his way to Atletico Madrid to replace Diego Costa, it would seem. A good move for him. But yeah, West Ham obviously have missed out on another transfer target there as well. Also, interesting link I saw was Eddie Nketiah of Arsenal. That was a bit of a surprise one for me. Obviously, I know Arsenal have had high hopes for Nketiah, but just hasn't worked out for him this season. When he's had his chance, he hasn't taken it. And do you think there's a possible departure there for Nketiah?
It's a really interesting one, yeah, because you see how much young talent has been getting the chance at Arsenal, and it's clearly something that Arteta looks like embracing. So I would be surprised if they let Nketiah leave the club. I'm not sure actually it's the solution for West Ham though. I'm not sure that is going to be much more of a reliable option on the goal front than. I mean, he might score a couple more than Haller because I mean, you or I might have managed that.
For sure.
But yeah, it still seems a little bit of a strange one. I'm not convinced by it, but we'll see. As you say, this is West Ham.
Exactly. Yeah, anything can happen in this transfer window, as we've seen in the past. But yeah, talking of a potential departure at Arsenal brings us on nicely to Mesut Özil, who dominated the headlines last week when news broke of a potential move to Fenerbahçe, which has been going on for years and years with Özil. But it seems like it's getting closer and closer at last. Dean, this transfer saga could finally be over. Mikel Arteta hinted last week that there could be more news this week. Fenerbahçe also said things could become clearer this week as well with Ozil's future. What's the latest on Özil that you've heard?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that's opened up finally. As you say, it has gone on for a long time, this transfer. I've written about it for at least 2 years. And for 2 years, it's basically been, well, Fenerbahçe cannot afford this deal. There's no way they can fund to get Mesut Özil over to Turkey. And now it's opening up. I mean, the way that it's working basically is when politics and football and money collide, like suddenly anything becomes possible for good or bad. But for Fenerbahçe, it looks like there's going to be some funding coming that is going to prove very helpful in terms of landing Mesut Özil. Let's leave it at that. But yeah, it is finally looking possible. His only other option was MLS and DC United, and I still think that is something that he'll be pursuing. I don't think that's the end of that. But short term, he's always wanted to try this if it could open up, and finally he's found a way, and his agents have found a way with Fenerbahçe to get it close. I think it is getting very close now, and it could be that this week we see his passage out of Arsenal finally open up. Might still cost them a little bit of money to get him out the door, but we'll see.
Just a bit. This saga looks like it finally could be coming to an end, and I think it's only going to be good for all parties that Arsenal get rid of Ozil. Ozil moves on and gets his career back on track, hopefully. But like you said, Dean, it's going to be very much on Mesut Ozil's terms, his £350,000 a week wages. If Arsenal are going to pay up the remainder of his contract, or even talk that he might allow them to pay the remainder of his wages over 2 years. Just what do you think Arsenal need to do just to get this deal done? Just agree to whatever and let him move on?
I think anything they can get right now would be helpful to them, because they need to open up the wage bill as well themselves right now, so that they can get somebody through the door. They are desperate for, at least one player, a creative midfielder, but ideally they'll sign, 2 players, I think, in this window. And they need to know which market they're shopping in here. Are they able to go and get, somebody that's going to make an instant impact on this team, which is obviously what they want? Or are they going to have to go in that tier just below that and just be a little bit more hopeful and pick somebody that has great potential and you hope he can just explode straight away? I think Emi Buendia is clearly becoming an option. I've written about it a couple of times in terms of their interest, and the player's head's been turned. There's no doubt about that. He knows that they're looking at him. Norwich aren't particularly interested in losing him, obviously, because they're trying to win promotion from the Championship. But 2 weeks ago, I saw reports saying Arsenal looking to sign Emi Buendia for £15 million, and that's completely unrealistic. There was no way they were getting him at that fee. And then at the weekend, I read he'll cost £40 million, which I don't think is realistic either. So I think find somewhere in the middle there. I think around 25, you might be able to find an agreement. And I think he would be a really, really good fit for what Mikel Arteta is trying to do. And I think that is a path that they should be pursuing.
Yeah, like you said, that price tag has maybe scared Arsenal off a bit, the 40 million that supposedly Norwich are demanding for Bunde, who's obviously did very well in the Premier League last year for Norwich, even though Norwich did go down. I think he was among the top creative players in the Premier League at the time as well. Julian Brandt of Borussia Dortmund's been an interesting name that's been mentioned with Arsenal as well. Dortmund haven't ruled out this move either, saying that it's possible that he could move on. Could you see the German international maybe move on, and would he be a good target for Arsenal?
Just from what I've spoken to one person in Germany that would have more insight on this than me, and he just believes that it's very unlikely that this happens in January. He didn't think that it would be plausible unless the player was desperate for it and made a fuss of it. Then thought he'll probably stay for now and most likely will leave at the end of the season. Really good player, and would fit brilliantly, you would think. But I think that deal is going to prove difficult. I saw they were linked with Draxler as well. I don't know too much about that actual link. But again, there is this quality out there that of player that isn't getting a lot of game time and is starting to kick their heels. And that's the kind of deal we're going to see loads cropping up over the next couple of weeks. Players that just are getting so frustrated and just want a short-term move even just to play some football right now.
Yeah, Draxler's been a long-term target for several Premier League clubs, but yeah, maybe a move for him could be in the offing because of his contract situation at PSG. His contract's up in the summer, so he'd be a lot cheaper than he would normally have been, and he's not really getting a kick for PSG unless that changes under Mauricio Pochettino. Now he's taken over, but somebody like a Draxler could be a good fit for an Arsenal. What about a Christian Eriksen, a shock move to Tottenham's old rivals Arsenal? Any chance, or wishful thinking?
I can't see Arsenal especially, but if Eriksen's move to PSG doesn't open up, then he's definitely open to the prospect of returning to the Premier League. I don't think that it's unreasonable that he could come back. I think it would be very big call for him to go to Arsenal. As far as I understand it, there is some interest there from Arsenal's side of things, and it is something that they have in the background, but it's not something that's particularly a priority right now because they realise also that it's unlikely given him he was a Tottenham player. Tottenham linked with him as well, of course, but look, Daniel Levy loves Christian Eriksen and would probably love to have him back. Just not sure, Christian Eriksen, after trying so hard to get out of the club and saying it wasn't even for money, to be honest. Tottenham were willing to offer Eriksen close to 200 grand, and he's actually earning less money than that now. at Inter Milan. So he didn't leave for money. He left to pursue other things and career ambitions and to further himself. And it's obviously hasn't worked out. It's been kind of embarrassing. So if he was to go back to the Tottenham training ground now and the rest of the lads are like, how did that work out, mate? It's a tricky one, you know. I'm not sure he'll want to put himself in that situation.
Yeah, I think he'd be in for a bit of banter there if he was to return to Tottenham's training ground, Christian Eriksen. But yeah, top player, and I think he really needs to move on in January to get his career back on track after stalling so badly at Inter Milan. But probably, if we're talking about Arsenal, Dean, we're probably talking about more outs than ins at the club this January. Obviously, they've let William Sabala go out on loan. Kolasinac has also gone out on loan to Schalke. More outs maybe with Lucas Torreira and Socrates as well before the end of the month.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to be honest, that they've even got their, there is open for players that you'd think possibly aren't available. I mean, Granit Xhaka I wrote about a while back. If a good offer landed for a player like that, they might be willing to take it because Arsenal are in a process of an overhaul and they want to get this squad in shape for Mikel Arteta long term. Like, Arteta's future is in no doubt, as we've spoken about as well on here. And as a result of that, he's being allowed to shape the squad to how he wants it to be in a year's time. I don't think Granit Xhaka is going to be part of that. And there are players, that I think they would be interested in offers for. They might not be actively on the transfer market. They might be looking to sell them, but wouldn't surprise me if there's a couple of players that there's just a couple of cheeky bids for from clubs just to test the water and see if Arsenal are tempted. So yeah, they'll be trimming the squad, no doubt, of the players that aren't getting a look in. But even the ones that are getting games, I think a couple of them, just might go.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting window at Arsenal, with players looking to move on and Arsenal looking to raise some money to bring in their own signings for Mikel Arteta's side. But we'll see by the end of the month if this Mesut Özil saga is finally over. So from one saga to another one that could be coming to a conclusion this month is the takeover of Derby County. This seems to have dragged on and on for months with the sale of the club to Sheikh Khalid, seemingly now in the final stages of completion. The conditions of the sale have been agreed, just set to be approved by the EFL and other members as well. So it seems this takeover is happening, Dean, and with that will be the appointment of Wayne Rooney as the club's permanent manager. He's done okay as an interim manager, Rooney, as we've spoke before. I think 3 wins, 4 draws from his 9 games. Definitely been a big improvement in Derby since he replaced Philip Cocu as well. The only thing here is if Rooney gets his job, it's going to probably signal the end of his career, and what a career it's been as a player for Wayne Rooney.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, to a lot of people, it will feel like Rooney's career is already over because, if you're not watching Championship football, then you're not seeing him anyway. But obviously, he is still playing. And I think it's been quite a natural transition for him to end his playing days and make this step into management, which is quicker than most would have expected to come. He's only 35. But, he made his breakthrough as a footballer at like 16. So why not, make his breakthrough as a manager at a young age as well? It's going to be really interesting to see what Wayne Rooney can do. Obviously, like with this takeover going through, it is going to mean that Derby can finally start to look into the transfer market and what they might be able to do. It's been a tricky time at the club with players not being paid and things like that. But everything suggests that this week is going to be a big turning point for this football club. And Wayne Rooney obviously is going to be looking for experience. He'll be looking at players he already knows from Man United or wherever else he's been. And he'll also just be looking for Premier League standard players that aren't getting a look in and are interested by the fact that they get to work with him. It's a big pull for Derby. They've been down this route before with Frank Lampard and pretty successful then. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of link-ups they get through having Rooney.
Yeah, it's going to be a big pull for any potential transfer targets to go and play under Wayne Rooney, like you said. And he'll be able to use his contacts at Everton, Manchester United, maybe to attract some of their best young players to the club. But Derby really do need to be busy in this transfer window. Still struggling at the wrong end of the Championship as well. We mentioned Phil Jones could be a potential target. That one still is in the offing as well, but could be competition for Jones's signature with the likes of Newcastle and West Brom. Also interested in the defender as well. But yeah, hopefully Wayne Rooney can he follow the likes of Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard and make a success as a manager?
I mean, you definitely can't rule it out. I think the way that those guys have started has obviously been pretty decent. And I think with Rooney, like, because of the way that he's quite a shy person, you know, when a lot of the time, if you actually meet him or you hear him talk, he is quite a shy person. It's quite hard to imagine him as a football manager. But I think in his own environment that he's actually comfortable in, he's a completely different person. I think around a training ground and the actual stadiums, you're getting a different Wayne Rooney. So it's difficult to know exactly what you're getting long term from Rooney, but he's clearly got a bright mind, and he's tactically worked with Sir Alex Ferguson for so long that he's going to have a playing style and an understanding of the game that many won't have. He's obviously just naturally just knows so much about the game as well that it's almost impossible that you see him being a complete flop because he knows too much about football. It's just going to really be interesting to see what his actual philosophy is on the game. I think he'll want to play attacking football. That's in his nature, so that's good. But how far will he take that? You know, what will it be a pressing game? Will it be a slow build-up and a counter-attacking game? We'll have to wait and see long term. We've only had a month and a half of him at Derby, and not much you can really gauge in that time about his actual philosophy. But it's definitely exciting, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if this works out. And in a few years' time, he's talking about him being a Man United manager.
Yeah, it's going to be really intriguing to watch Wayne Rooney on his managerial journey, just like his old ex-England teammates. Just for me, seeing all these former players becoming managers makes me feel old, seeing them become managers right now. So they'll be the first of many of former players that we used to watch playing for the clubs becoming the managers as well. But it's all exciting, and big news now for Derby that this takeover is set to go through. Right, that's us for another week on Touchline Talk. We will be back next week for more insight and news, and we'll see you next week.